Good morning, everybody. We're live here from the birdhouse, and we are getting lots of reports on baby birds that are out and about, that are leaving the nest and coming to feeders and bouncing around backyards. So, today we're giving an update about what some of those baby birds are. And as always, we love to know who's on. If you are on, you can say hi. If you have questions, you can throw those in the comments and definitely let us know what kind of things you are seeing because we love to get your updates as well. But let's get started. If you are local to the area, today we do have a plant sale going on with Michael Hannon, and he will be here until 4 o'clock or until he sells out. So he's got quite a few things today, and he will be here. He's all set up in the front of the store, and he will be here for most of the day. So we'll pop on in and see his great supply of plants. But there are so many baby birds out there right now. If your backyard is anything like mine, it has a lot of European starlings in it. Been noticing a whole bunch of them, and they're not going to be as speckly as the parents are right away. They're very kind of a brownish gray, and they've got that black beak. They don't have that bright yellow bill yet, but there's so many European starlings out there, and they are hungry. So, one thing also, if you've been getting lots of starlings or lots of red-winged blackbirds or grackles, we're getting lots of reports on all of those guys. If they're really raiding your feeders and you want to put something out that they might not like as much, you can always put out the safflower seed. So the blackbirds and the starlings really don't like the safflower seed. So that's great for the keeping the red-winged blackbirds, the grackles, and the starlings kind of at bay. But the cardinals love it, and finches, the house finches love it. So you can still get a pretty good diversity of birds by using the safflower seed, but you won't get these big flocks of blackbirds. So definitely lots and lots of European starlings out there. This seems to be their first brood that's been leaving the nest, but they are due for a second brood. So don't be surprised if you do see the parents flying around with more nesting material in their bill, going right into their second brood. You might also see young red-winged blackbirds out there. They're starting to leave their nests, especially if you're around any kind of water or cattails or pond or marsh. Don't be surprised if you're starting to see the juvenile red-winged blackbirds out there. And I think the robins look a little bit similar to the red-winged blackbirds, but they're going to have more of that speckly kind of breast, but definitely lots of American robins out there. And don't be surprised if you see them hopping around on the ground. That is totally normal during this fledgling stage. The birds, as they're leaving the nest, are kind of exploring their territory. And a lot of the times they can be found on the ground, and the parents will keep coming and feeding them consistently. But that is very, very common this time of the year. So it doesn't mean that they're injured or anything. It can't hurt to keep an eye on them to make sure that the parents are coming down and feeding them. But that is super, super common this time of the year. Last year, I had a young blue jay in my backyard that was hanging out on the ground. And if I got too close to it, up in a tree, all I could hear was the parents squawking. So the parents are usually really, really close by, but it can't hurt to keep an eye on them. But it is totally normal to see these fledglings out and about. And a lot of the times when they first leave the nest, they are looking really awkward. They can be on the ground, so that is super common and normal. I saw yesterday when I came home from work some young tufted titmice that were out and eating the safflower seed in my backyard. Super, super cute. And we're starting to get the first reports of chickadees leaving their nests too, which are adorable. So the juvenile chickadees are out there too. Lots of young house finches are out there. They kind of look like the females. They've got a lot of the time the young will have these little tufts of feathers on the top of their heads that look kind of awkward. But lots of house finches, tons of house sparrows. I'm sure you've seen some of those babies. A lot of the times they will follow their parents to a food source like a bird feeder, and they'll flap their wings and they'll beg for the parents to feed them, which they will do for about a week or more. And then young blue jays out there too. So lots of young birds out there, like young cardinals too. I saw a juvenile cardinal the other day flying around. So they are definitely leaving their nests and dispersing. And then those parents that will have more than one brood a year will start the nesting process really quickly. And sometimes they'll reuse their old nest, sometimes they'll build a new nest. So it can vary depending on the bird. But also bluebirds. This is what a juvenile bluebird will look like. They're much more speckly than the adults at first. Bluebirds can have up to 3 broods a year. So we've been hearing reports of the parents on the second brood of the bluebirds. And usually those juveniles will stick around and help raise the subsequent broods. So you might, if you're lucky enough to get the bluebirds, start to see more and more and more and more as their families grow. So once those bluebirds are out in the world, you might see them coming to your mealworm feeders. This is a photo that Kim sent in of a female bluebird at her suet feeder. So keep your eyes out for those bluebirds, especially as they disperse. And as far as orioles go, we've been getting lots of reports of orioles still coming to the jelly. So if you have your jelly out and you're consistently getting the orioles, that's awesome. A lot of people are feeding them mealworms and insect material on top of that now too, because they either have babies in their nests, or we've gotten our first reports this week of some juveniles coming into backyards and coming to feeders with the parents. So it's about that time of the year where the juvenile orioles are starting to leave the nest. Some of them are still in the nest, but this is what the nests look like. They're a woven hanging sack that will hang from the branch of a tree. And so keep an eye out for this. If you've had lots of oriole activity in your backyard, you probably have a nest nearby. And so, yeah, lots of reports of them still coming to the oriole feeders, eating jelly, eating the oranges. And don't be surprised if you start to see more of them out there as those juveniles leave the nests. And so if you do have any insect material out for them, don't be surprised if you start to see the parents get big billfuls of these mealworms or other insects in order to bring them to the nest and feed their babies. And over the next week or so, I'm sure we'll get more and more and more reports of those juveniles starting to follow their parents to the feeders. The parents will usually feed them a little bit of food so they understand this is a good source of food. So you might start to see the juveniles coming not only to the mealworms, but to your jelly feeders as well. It's that time of the year. And like I said, if you do see the fledglings out there, it is totally normal to see them on the ground. This is a chart of some of the more common nestlings that might be out there, the common fledglings. And most of the time, they are totally fine. So you want to just leave them there. You don't want to disturb them in any way. The parents are still taking care of them. So like I said, it's totally normal to see them awkwardly hopping around on the ground and looking like they can't fly, flapping their wings. They're trying to get their parents' attention, so the parents will feed them more food. So that's totally normal this time of the year. Hummingbirds have been kind of sparse. The reports of hummingbirds coming in have been kind of slow. Some people are getting them consistently. Some people had them briefly early in the spring and then haven't seen much of them. So it's been kind of a mixed bag, but it seems like they've been kind of sparse so far this spring, but they're definitely back in the area. They are coming to people's feeders. They're starting to come to the plants as the plants are coming more into bloom in general. The hummingbird plants, they'll come to those all season long. And don't be surprised if you start to see them coming more often to the feeders once it gets closer to migration, which is a couple months away. But it's not uncommon for them to kind of fizzle at feeders a little bit during the summer months when there's so many flowers in bloom that they like. And then they start coming back to feeders more regularly once they're starting to get ready to migrate in the fall. So keeping your hummingbird feeder clean is always super important. Definitely want to change that nectar out every few days. We have all the brushes that you would need to clean those feeders. And we also have the nectar defender, which is super popular. You add a little bit of this liquid to your nectar and it keeps the nectar fresh longer than it would without it. So normally your nectar can start to go bad within a few days. With the Nectar Defender, it'll keep it fresh for more like a week or 10 days. So that's really, really nice. You just add a little bit of this liquid to your hummingbird nectar or Oriole nectar, and it'll keep it fresh longer. Another thing you can always put out too, especially as it's going to start to get warmer, is a water source. So all birds need some kind of source of water. Having a bird bath is a great way to provide them with that. And we just got even more bird baths in this past week. We've got a whole bunch of really fun ones to choose from. And you can make any bird bath into a water feature by adding one of these solar fountain inserts, or we have things called water wigglers, which will make little ripples in the water. Not only will moving water keep mosquitoes from being able to develop in the bird bath, but the moving water does bring in more birds. And we also have things, just like we have things that keep the hummingbird nectar fresh longer. We also have something called Bird Bath Protector, which you can add to the bird bath, and it helps break down some of that gunk that gets in the water, and it helps keep the water fresh longer than it would just by having water alone. So we've got all that kind of stuff here for you too, including nesting material, which is still going like crazy in my backyard. Sparrows, especially at the moment, are just getting bills full of this nesting material and flying away with it. And soon it'll be the goldfinches as they start to build their nests. They're a late nesting bird in our area, so they usually don't start nesting until a couple more weeks. So putting out nesting material is another way to attract birds and keep them coming in your yard during this nesting season time. And we also do have the decals that you can put on your windows if you are having window strikes, which we've been having quite a few people asking about those. So we've got those here as well. So you can attach those to the window, and that helps if you have birds hitting them. Happens a lot during migration time. It also happens a lot when those juveniles are out and they're learning how to fly and they're exploring the world around them. So we absolutely have those window decals for you as well. So thank you guys for watching. It looks like there's a couple comments here. Therese is asking, where are you? I'm in Western New York, in upstate New York, in Rochester. That is where we are broadcasting from here, and that's where this report is coming from. Kelly is on and says, I saw a baby bird that was about the size of a cowbird. I don't know what it was. It was being fed by a small sparrow. Sounds like it very well could be then a cowbird, especially if the bird was larger than the small sparrow. It's not uncommon this time of the year to start seeing that activity out there. The cowbirds are a nest parasite, meaning they will lay their eggs in the nests of other birds. And then once those eggs hatch, that mother will start to raise the baby cowbird like it is her own. So it's not uncommon to see those cowbirds being raised by birds that are quite a bit smaller than them, which is pretty wild. It looks like that's everybody's comments and questions for today. We'll be back on Tuesday with another broadcast. If you are shopping for Father's Day, we certainly have lots of fun stuff here for Dad. We are open today. We're open tomorrow from 9 to 5, so you can even bring your dad in and have him shop for something all on his own. Or we also have gift certificates that you can buy online, or you can come in and buy them here as well. So we've got a little bit of something for everybody here at the store. And like I said, we'll be back on Tuesday with another broadcast. And until then, have a great weekend. To all the fathers out there, have a great Father's Day, and we'll talk